Good afternoon, everyone. Namaskar. Vanakkam, Sasriyakal. I welcome you all again, our income tax class. And I am C. Ankit Sharma, your income tax faculty for the session. Today, we will be discussing the provisions of residential status and the incidence of tax. As in the last class, we discussed the how to determine the residential status of a person, whether it's a company, whether it's an individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, partnership firm, etc. So we have seen there that in case of partnership firm and others, there is only two status, resident or non-resident, and depending upon the control and management criteria. In the same case, in case of a company, there was two options, whether you would be an Indian company, and if you are an Indian company, then you will be treated as resident always. And if you are other than an Indian company, in that case, there is a provision, there is a concept which called POEM, place of effective management. And that place of effective management will decide whether you would be a resident or non-resident, where is the substance of place of effective management. Okay. Then we discuss about the HUF provisions for being a resident or non-resident, and you could see that there was almost same concept which was for partnership firm, that if the control and management wholly or partly is in India, if the business meeting has been held in India, whether as a partial manner or in full manner, in that case, that HUF would be regarded as a resident HUF. And if the business management and the control and management is completely outside India, in that case, that HUF would be regarded as a non-resident HUF. But there was a subclassification also. If that HUF becomes resident, then we have to find whether it's a resident and ordinary resident, or it is a resident but not ordinary resident. But that case, we left over there. We said that we will discuss the detail of HUF subclassification later, after discussing the provision regarding individual being a resident or non-resident, etc. In that individual cases, we have seen there was a concept of resident or non-resident, and we have two kind of resident states. That was one was normal, and the other was deemed resident. I believe that you must have gone through with the provision, and now you might be feeling that residential status is not that complicated. What we was thinking at the time of first lecture, because if you revised it, then I believe that all of you must now feeling that it is not that complicated. We just need to understand the specific cases and the days requirement for being a resident, etc. Clearly. So in that diagram, we have completed this case. The normal case, which says general or basic condition was if an individual fulfills any of these conditions, if you are in India for more than equal to 182 days in previous year, or if you are in India for more than equal to 60 days in India in previous year, and 365 or more days in 4 preceding previous year, then you would be regarded as a resident. But we also have some special cases, special individual cases. That is category B, which says, we are just revising what we have discussed in the first session in shorts. Why we are revising? Because we need to continue that provision today also. So just because we are about to continue that provision, so I'm just trying to recap what we have discussed in the last session. So there were 3 special cases. First was if you are an individual and you are a citizen of India, and you are going outside India for employment purpose or as a crew member of an Indian ship. In that case, you would be resident only if you fulfill this condition of 182 days. The 60 days and 365 days conditions are not applicable. If you are an individual, citizen or person of Indian origin, and if that person comes to India for visit, in that case also only first condition would be applicable. That was 182 days or more. But there is third category also, that if you are an individual, citizen or person of Indian origin, and you comes to India for visit and having total income more than 15 lakh from Indian resources, then to find out whether you are a resident or not, there are two conditions. First one is exactly the same as per in above case. And second condition also almost like this. Almost. You can see it is almost like this. There's only one difference, that 120 has replaced the 60 days limit, what we should be in the previous. So it should be 120 days and plus 365 days in 4 preceding previous year. So if you are fulfilling basic condition or as per a special condition, you would be called a resident. Clear? There is a concept of deemed resident also. And this says that if you are a citizen, this is only for citizen, not for POIO, who reside outside India, comes to visit or not. So visit is not a condition in this case. But the main condition is this one, that if that person having total income exceeding 15 lakh from Indian resources and not paid tax on this income outside India anywhere, in that case, that person would be called a deemed resident. And deemed resident would always be treated as resident and not ordinary resident. Clear? We have discussed till here, and then we have also one classification, that if you become a resident as above, then you will be either resident or ordinary resident or resident or not ordinary resident as follows. The first case we were discussing at that time, and that says if resident as per case number A or as per case number B1 or B2, and if satisfy any one condition, the condition was less than 730 days in 7 preceding previous year, or non-resident equal to or more than 9 years out of 10 preceding previous year. So if you satisfy any of these two conditions, you would be called a resident and not ordinary resident. And if you did not satisfy it, that you will be called a resident and ordinary resident. So till here, we have discussed the provision. Okay. Now we will discuss further, but before that, okay, illustration 2B and C part, we will discuss that, Tejaswin. Today we will complete the full provision of individual. Then we will discuss illustration number 2, 3, 4, 5, and test your knowledge question number 1 and 2 also we will discuss. So be patient. Stay with me. We will do each and everything one by one. So as we always do, the today's thought for the day is in front of you. And we all know who is Swami Vivekananda ji. We all know he's a great personality, scholar, everything. And he said that arise, awake, stop now, till the goal is reached. So what is our goal? The goal is to becoming a chartered accountant. So you all have a goal of becoming a chartered accountant. And just a second. Have changed. Just a second. So it was saying arise, awake, stop now. Arise do not means the literal meaning of arise, that you are sleeping at night and waking up. No, arise means you should understand yourself. You should arise from your inner side, that what is the object, what is the goal of your life, and you have to do some sacrifice for it. So the goal should be clear in your mind that yes, I want to be a chartered accountant. So in that way, you should arise. You should come to know that what exactly you needs to go do actually in your life. Awake, that means that is a process. That you are studying daily, you are sacrificing things, you're covering your syllabus, revising it, etc. So arise means you have to be internally awake that what is my goal, you should know. And awake means the process, what you need to do to achieve that goal. If you are thinking to becoming a chartered accountant, you could not be a chartered accountant by way of just thinking. So you have to take some steps. So that is the meaning of awakeness, that you have to do the certain things, the hard work, you have to be going through the examination, you have to uh, face the failure also, and you have to come out from your weaknesses and stop not. That shows that maybe you not get success in first time. Maybe it's possible that you got some failure also, but you should not stop till you are going to be a chartered accountant. It always says now, we always think about it, or our family also say one day you will be a CA. One day you also might be thinking one day you will be a CA. One day you will get your dream car. One day you will get the dream job. One day it will be there that people will respect you. So that one day needs day one. It's a very beautiful line. I guess day before yesterday I seen this line somewhere, that there always be a day one before being a one day of your life, whatever you have dreamed. So if you have dreamed to be a chartered accountant one day, if you have dreamed to be a lot of money one day with respect, if you have dreamed to make your parents proud one day, so that one day means day one. The day one when you start your journey. And it has day one, day two, day three, day four, and your goal is called one day. So that day is called one day, and for that one day, there must be a multiple days starting from the day one. Okay, so that was the thought for the day from my side to all of you. I believe that it must encourage, if I'm able to encourage any one of you, even one student is getting motivated with these thoughts or stories, so my hard work is actually going to be paid. Okay, so let's move on to the provisions, what we were discussing in the last class. So that was one day, and it needs a lot of day one. Day one, day two, and so on. So after that, all these days, there would be a one day for sure for all of you who are ready to awake, arise, and stop not till the goal is going to be achieved. Okay, so talking about the study part. So we were discussing that if you become a resident, then in that case, if you are becoming a resident as per case number A, or as per case number B1 or B2, so there would be two conditions. If you are able to satisfy any one of them, you would be called a resident and not ordinary resident. So that is a resident and not ordinary resident cases, what we were discussing after becoming a resident. And if you're not able to satisfy these conditions, you will be called a resident and ordinary resident. So this R should be over here. Fine. So the condition was you would be in India less than 730 days. Less than 730 days. Okay. We have discussed already in 7 preceding previous year. With example, we have discussed this condition, or you need to satisfy this condition that you should be 9 years or more non-resident in preceding 10 preceding previous years. So in last preceding previous year, 10 preceding year, if you have attained non-residential status out of these 10 preceding previous year, at least 9 years or more, then you would also be treated as a resident, but not ordinary resident. So till that case, we have discussed. After completing this case and HUF, we will start today's MCQ, test your knowledge questions, and illustration, which has been given in your study material also. Okay. Now, in case number B, third case, we have separate provision for B, third case. So B, third case was, if a citizen or person of Indian origin comes to India for visit, remember, having total income exceeding 15 lakh from Indian resources. In that case, there were two conditions, that if he or she is in India for 182 days or more, and second was he or she in India for more than or equal to 120 days plus more than equal to 365 days in 4 preceding previous year. So if you would be a resident under point number B, third category, then to becoming a resident but not ordinary resident, we have 3 conditions. So there is an advantage of one more condition. The first condition exactly same, this one. So again, if he or she is less than 730 days in 7 preceding previous year in India. Same condition as per first provision we have discussed, A, B1, B2. Second condition also same, exactly copy paste. The third condition is extra, otherwise 1 and 2 is similar in case of first or second case. Okay. So 10 years or more non-resident, 9 years or more non-resident out of the 10 preceding previous year. So these two conditions are exactly same copy paste. There is no difference. The third is an additional condition technically for this category of individual. And what is the third special condition? It says that if that person who becomes a resident due to point number B, third category, was in India for more than equal to 120 days in previous year, but less than 182 days. So if he would be in India for more than equal to 120 days, this condition must have been fulfilled, because we are talking about the B third category. So this condition must have been fulfilled. But if he was in India for more than 120 days in previous year, but less than 182 days in previous year, then he would be called a resident and not ordinary resident in India. So this is an additional condition for B point third category person. And we all know, if you are a deemed resident, that we also discussed in last class, deemed resident would be always resident and not ordinary resident. So these were the 3 cases. First one for A, B1 and B2 cases. Second one is for B third category person. There is only one additional condition. And the third is for deemed resident, that would always be treated as a resident and not ordinary resident. Let's see with the help of diagram. So this is the condition we were talking. So these two conditions are same for third category of person also. This is the additional condition what I was talking about, this one. Okay. So if he is more than equal to 120 days, but less than 182 days in previous year, we are talking about previous year 24-25. So if he came in that year and stay in India for less than 182 days, then he will be considered as a resident and not ordinary resident. Let me explain you with the help of an example, this kind of condition. Suppose Mrs. A comes to India and she is a citizen of India. She comes to India for visit in previous year for 150 days. Clear? Her total income is exceeding, or we can say her total income is 20 lakh rupees from Indian sources. So you can see she is fulfilling point number B, third category condition, Indian sources. Before this year, in last 4 preceding previous year, or we can say in last 10 preceding previous year, out of the 4 preceding previous year, she was in India for 300 days, and remaining 6 preceding previous year, she was in India for 325 days. Okay, sorry. She was in India in last 4 preceding years for, suppose, 400 days. And in last preceding to 4 preceding previous year, last 6 preceding previous year, she was in India for 325 days. So in total, In 10 preceding previous years, she was in India for 725 days. Now, question asks you, kindly find out the residential status. Now, because Mrs. A falls in the special category, so for the purpose of special category, we have two conditions. She falls under special category B point, third case. Either she would be in India for more than equal to 182 days, then she would be called a resident, but it is not so. In previous year, if she would be in India for more than equal to 120 days and more than equal to 365 days in 4 preceding previous year, then she would be called a resident. So she was in India for 150 days in the previous year, and in last 4 preceding previous year, she was in India for 400 days. So technically, she fulfilled this condition, she will be called a resident in India. Now, after becoming a resident, now I have to check whether she is a resident and not ordinary resident or yes. So condition 1, she was in India for less than 730 days. So because you can see in this example, she is in India for less than 730 days because for 10 preceding previous year, she is only in India for 725 days. So automatically in 7 preceding year also, she is in India for less than 730 days. So she would be called a resident and not ordinary resident. First condition has been fulfilled. Now suppose the question says in the last preceding 6 year, she was in India for 200 days in 3 separate years. Out of this 6 year, in 3 preceding year, like previous year number 4, that was 4 preceding year 400. This is 5, 6, 7 year. And for other years, she was not in India. So last 10 years, she was in India for like this. We can say for 4 preceding previous year, she was in India 400 days. In 5th preceding year, 200 days. 6th, 200 days. 7th, 200 days. And 8th, 9th, and 10th, she was not in India, 0 days. So in aggregate, she was in India for 1000 days. In total, 10 years. So now if the condition has been changed to this, that suppose she is in India for 1000 days and I have divided these days like this. So in that case, she would not be able to fulfill this condition because she is in India more than 730 days. She is in India now 1000 days. The second condition was she should be in India 9 years non-resident out of 10. So you can see in this year she is 200 days, satisfying 182 days condition, resident. And I have told you, if any person becomes resident for 2 years, any individual becomes resident for 2 years, then this condition also could not be completed. Now, third condition, if you see, third condition does not relate with preceding year status. It just says that if you are in India for more than equal to 120 days in previous year, but less than 182 days, then you would also be a resident and not ordinary resident. So in this case, she was in India for 150 days. So satisfied third condition, she would be called a resident and not ordinary resident. I hope it's clear. So that was the point number B, third condition. Okay. So individual's provision has been completed. Now we have left with the HUF concept. Where we left the HUF provision, from that we have to understand the classification provision of HUF. So for the purpose of HUF, we have discussed control and management. If it's wholly, partly in India, that would be resident. And if it's wholly outside India, that would be a non-resident. So if you become a resident, if HUF become a resident, now we need to find the sub-classification like whether it would be a resident and ordinary resident or whether it would be a resident but not ordinary resident. Clear? We just need to complete this, and in that case, we will complete all the condition of residential status for all persons. Before that, okay, Mahima asking about MCQ. Yes, after solving this HUF concept, we will directly go for the MCQs, then illustration, and then test your knowledge questions. Okay. Pallavi is saying, sir, in this case, to find residential status in preceding year, we should examine it by B point third case and not 182 days criteria. B point third case consisting two condition to check, na Pallavi. We have seen that if you fall under condition number B third case, in that scenario, 182 condition is universal. It always applicable in every case. So if that condition is satisfying, then you are automatically be a resident in that year. So that 200 condition is applicable in every year. So of course, in our example, because in 2 years or 3 years, that condition has been fulfilling. So we considered resident Mrs. A in that year. Okay. Sudhir Pandey, PDF of previous class uploaded. I have already uploaded that, Sudhir. I guess yesterday I uploaded that. You must go to on the portal and you will find out there. Okay. So before going to the HUF diagram provision, first of all, we should go through the provision theoretically also, because under this provision, there is a very interesting concept. You have seen that for the purpose of calculating or finding out the residential status of an individual, we find out that if somebody would be a resident or not ordinary resident. So condition was for resident or not ordinary resident. If that is not fulfilled, then you would be a resident and ordinary resident. But for the purpose of HUF, the condition has been reversed. They will explain that when HUF will be a resident and ordinary resident, and if that condition does not fulfill, then HUF will be treated as resident and not ordinary resident. So what exactly is happening? For individual, if you are a resident, we have to find out resident, not ordinary resident, or resident, ordinary resident. So they explain these conditions, 1, 2, 3, depending. And if these not fulfill, you will be this. For HUF, it's reverse. Now in HUF, we will be going to find out the condition for becoming a resident and ordinary resident. And if these condition does not fulfill, in that case, you will be called a resident and not ordinary resident. Now, here's a problem. If HUF become a resident, then to check whether it's a resident or ordinary resident or resident or not ordinary resident, we have to apply these condition upon Karta, not on the HUF. But who will be to whomsoever it's a Karta in HUF, these condition, these 1 or 2 condition is going to be checked upon the Karta of the HUF. And Karta is a human being. So that's an individual. And those condition which is applicable in first case, A case, to becoming a resident and not ordinary resident, exactly those condition has been applicable, but in a reverse manner. Now understand very interestingly, to becoming a resident or not ordinary resident, in case of individual, the first condition was he should be less than 730 days in India. Clear? He should be at least less than 730 days. So when this condition will not be fulfilled to becoming a resident, it's a very language, it's a very simple language, but we have to understand in a reverse manner. So to becoming a resident and non-resident, the condition says that you would be a resident and not ordinary resident if you are less than 730 days in India in 7 preceding previous year. Okay. If this is fulfilled, you will be a resident and not ordinary resident. So this condition will not fulfill when? If you are in India for equal to or more than 730 days. So these condition has been explained over here in a reverse case. So you will be a resident, not ordinary resident, if you are in India for less than 730 days. That means for 729 days or less. So when this condition will not be fulfilled, it has been written over here. So first condition says the karta should be in India for more than equal to 730 days in 7 preceding previous year. Understand, we are not discussing any new condition. To becoming a resident and not ordinary, the condition was you should be less than 730 days in India. So automatically, if I'll ask you, what should be the condition to becoming a resident or ordinary resident? So that would be, you should be in India for 730 days or more. And when should be not ordinary? Less than. So in act, this note has been prescribed. If the question asked theoretically, kindly explain the condition for becoming a resident and ordinary resident or resident or not ordinary resident in case of HUF, then you cannot write these conditions. Even the answer would be same. If you solve the question like this, the answer would be same, but we have to write these conditions to becoming a resident and ordinary resident. So the second condition, what would be? It says either fulfill this condition or you would be in India for 9 years out of 10 preceding previous year non-resident. So reverse would be like this, that you should be at least 2 year resident in India out of 10 preceding previous year. So exactly these both conditions should be fulfilled. The karta should be more than equal to 730 days in 7 preceding previous year, and karta should be more than equal to 2 years resident out of 10 preceding previous year. So if both condition fulfill means none of these has been fulfilled, because if any one of this fulfill, you will be a resident, not ordinary resident. So ROR says anyone need to fulfill or. So the reverse case, when this is not applicable, when these both condition has been fulfilled. So if you are in India for 2 year resident out of 10 year, and if you are in India for more than equal to 730 days, the karta needs to fulfill both of these conditions, because if he is not satisfying any one of them, that means he is satisfying this category condition. So if karta satisfy these both conditions, then HUF will be called resident and ordinary resident. And if karta would not be able to satisfy any one of them or both of them, we need to fulfill both. So if he is not able to satisfy any one of them or both, then HUF would be called a resident and not ordinary resident. So it's just a language, but the concept and the provisions are same. There is no B point third category in HUF cases. So it's very interesting language which has been drafted for the purpose of HUF. You can see over here, we have explained that also. HUF control and management, you can see wholly partly in India. In that case, resident, and if wholly outside India, non-resident. So if resident, then we have to find ROR or RNOR. And if karta, on the basis of karta, we have to find it out. So karta needs to fulfill these both conditions. If karta more than equal to 2 year resident out of 10 preceding previous year, and if karta more than equal to 730 days in 7 preceding previous year in India. If karta fulfill both conditions, then HUF will be ROR. If karta does not fulfill both or fulfill any one of condition, then HUF will be resident and not ordinary resident. I hope it's clear now. Fine. So that is some language has been interpretation of language. The condition has been specified for ROR in case of HUF and for RNOR in case of individual case, but conditions are same. So if you logically think about it, it's exactly same condition. In with one case, we are explaining ROR concept. In the other case, we are explaining how to become a RNOR concept. Both are mutually exclusive cases. Ms. Bhavna is asking, sir, in 182 days in previous year or any year in third case? 182 days in any, no, that previous year only. You are asking, I guess, to becoming a resident and not ordinary resident case. So in that situation, it should be more than equal to 120 days or less than 182 days in the previous year only, not the preceding previous year, only in the previous year. So we can say that if all of the condition not fulfilled, then OR, am I correct, sir? You are saying about individual case, then it's correct. That if you are not satisfying any condition to becoming a resident and not ordinary resident, then you would be classified as a ROR. Okay, Ashutosh is saying, sir, फिर तो for individual HUF indirectly condition same ही है. Yes, exactly. बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हो आप. तो सर इंडिविजुअल अगर आप लॉजिकली देखें तो जो कंडीशन इंडिविजुअल में आर एनओआर को एक्सप्लेन करती हैं उन्हीं को रिवर्स करके ROR HUF में लिख दिया गया है. तो दोनों ही तरीके से कंडीशन सेम है, बट इंडिविजुअल में अब कंडीशन ज्यादा हो गई है बिकॉज वो बी पॉइंट की थर्ड कैटेगरी से. बट HUF में सिर्फ यही दो कंडीशन है. इंडिविजुअल अगर इन दोनों को पूरा करेगा तो HUF बनेगी ROR, अदरवाइज बनेगी RNOR. ओके, Manoj, sir, for individual residential status and karta status also we can follow the same procedure like we did before or individual? नहीं, ऐसा we cannot do that, Miss Maroju, because as per Act, if in the examination we need to solve, that we need to solve as per the provision which has been prescribed by the Income Tax Act. This would be a shortcut, answer could be same, but the procedure will not be right. So in that case, if the question is for individual, then we have to show the condition for becoming a resident and not ordinary resident. And if that has not been satisfied, then of course you would be a resident and ordinary resident. But if question belongs to HUF, in that case, you have to explain the condition which has been prescribed for becoming a resident and ordinary resident. And if those does not fulfill, then you will be a R and R. Okay, next is आशुतोष. सर HUF के अकॉर्डिंग जो कंडीशन है वो याद करने के लिए इजी है, ऐसा लग रहा है आपको? नहीं, RNOR इजी है बिकॉज RNOR में आपको कोई एक कंडीशन पूरे करते ही आंसर आ जाएगा. अगर वो लेस देन 730 डेज है और वो फुलफिल हो गई तो सेकंड वाली 10 आउट ऑफ 9 नहीं चेक करनी पड़ेगी, 9 आउट ऑफ 10 सॉरी. बट अगर आप ROR के थ्रू क्रॉस चेक करेंगे क्वेश्चन तो आपको हमेशा दोनों चेक करनी पड़ेंगी बिकॉज वहां दोनों फुलफिल होने का मतलब है कि उस साइड की दोनों फुलफिल नहीं है. तो वो लग रहा है इजी, बट इट्स इजी टू सॉल्व विद द हेल्प ऑफ RNOR. ओके, चलो अब now we'll move on to MCQs and then we will solve the test of knowledge questions and illustration which has been left. Let me see if there is some question in chat box also. Okay, sir, it's simple, very inspiring. Thank you. Okay. In point number 2 case, for the ordinary resident, the person should stay for 8 out of 10 years. For ordinary resident, it should be a resident for 2 years only. And if that condition is fulfilled, the RNOR condition cannot be fulfilled. More than or equal to 730 days, correct. Okay, Vinuta is saying, sir, once explained karta means, we have already discussed basic concept chapter, Vinuta, and in that chapter we have discussed the meaning of karta in the definition of HUF. So if you are joining any class from today, so it's better to watch the previous class because under income tax, everything is correlated and it's interconnected, okay? Remaining 8 years, karta should be non-resident. Manvi, does not matter that whether he is a resident or not. If he is 2-year resident, then automatically this condition will be considered as fulfilled, where whatever he is for 8 years, resident or non-resident, that does not matter. Okay. If individual first and second condition fulfill नहीं हो तो ROR, but sir third condition fulfill हो जाए तो क्या होगा? वीरेंद्रा शर्मा, मुझे क्वेश्चन समझ नहीं आया. मतलब इंडिविजुअल के स्टेटस की बात कर रहे हैं या HUF में कर्ता की? बट अगर आप इंडिविजुअल वाले केस की बात कर रहे हैं, बी पॉइंट के थर्ड कैटेगरी की, एक कंडीशन पूरी करनी है. तो बी पॉइंट जो थर्ड कैटेगरी है उसमें 3 कंडीशन है RNOR के लिए. कोई भी एक आप फुलफिल करेंगे तो आप RNOR बन जाएंगे. Okay. So moving on to the MCQs now. I believe that you are all ready to read these MCQs and give me the correct answer. Okay. This is our moment of truth. सच का सामना करते हैं, देखते हैं कितनी पढ़ाई हो रही है. Easy chapter. It's a easy chapter. In my opinion, residential status is easy than basic concept chapter. In my opinion, it's the most easiest chapter of full income tax. All the other chapters are slightly complicated, etc. But from the point of view of the calculation, etc., there is no calculation of tax. You just need to learn some days, and you have to find out after putting the condition on the specific case, and you will get your answer. So here is first question. Under the Income Tax Act 1961, the total income of each person is taxed on the basis of his. We all know the answer, of course. You have to select the correct option and give me the answer. You can send the answer on the query link also. Yes, Ms. Bhavna, in case of HUF, the condition for becoming a ROR or RNOR will be applicable only upon Karta, not other members. Okay, so answers are coming. The correct option is, of course, option number C. Residential status of the previous year matter. Fine. Whenever you're sending your answer, kindly mention the question number also. So in the later question, I would not get confused that what option you are giving for which question. So it's a very simple question. Correct. The answer is C, correct. And I guess 100% students gave the correct answer. No answer is other than C. Brilliant. Very good. Astha, Raman, Sudhir, everybody gave the correct answer. So high five to everyone from Wi-Fi. Chalo. Second question. Easy topic. It is very easy topic. Next is, it says taxpayers are classified into how many broad categories on the basis of their residential status? Okay, somebody is saying B, Nayan is saying B, Hardik is saying B, Manvi is saying B, Apurv is saying B, Preeti is saying C, VR Niketana is B, somebody was saying A also. Okay, Anirudh is saying C. The correct answer is, of course, C. Because we have resident and ordinary resident, we have resident and not ordinary resident, and we have non-resident also. So there are three categories in which status of a person could be classified. It is correct that in case of companies and firm, etc., there is only two classification. But if you giving the answer 2, that would not be right, because in that case your answer will be wrong. Because where would be resident and not ordinary resident will fall. So we have the correct answer is 3. So in case of MCQ, you have to see which is the maximum correct answer, which is the most accurate answer that could be selected. So the correct answer is 3. It has been written in the notes also. I guess you might not have read the notes properly. It has been specifically written in the notes. You could see that. There is a broad categories. I have also mentioned this exact language in the notes. 3 broad categories. So there are 3 broad categories. You should go through the notes also. Okay. Chalo, third pe aate. Where is my MCQ number 3 gone? Okay. Next. To claim the status of not ordinary resident for individual. What is the correct answer? Read the options. Now let me tell you, the question says to claim the status of a non-resident, the basic condition means A and B, both cases. B1, 2, 3 is also part of basic condition in this MCQ. Additional conditions means that after becoming resident, the subclassification These are called additional condition here. These are not a special condition. These are basic and special. Additional means over here, that is those conditions, those are applicable after becoming a resident. The correct answer is, of course, B. We have to fulfill one basic condition, that to make you become a resident, and after that those special condition which is for being a resident or not ordinary resident, those specific conditions, those are called additional condition in this MCQ. Okay, next MCQ number 4. Among us the following, which is the basic condition to identify the residence status of the individual. It's good to see that a lot of students is giving answer on query portal also and in chat box also. Question number 4 is a tricky question. Kindly read it properly and somebody say D. Okay. Shibu Shruti is saying D. Apurv is saying D. Deepali is saying D. Anjali is saying A. Aisha Khan is saying A. Anirudh is saying A. S.K. Nuruddin, Arun Mishra is saying D. Raman Tambia A or A. Okay. A lot of student is giving the answer D because you are not reading it properly. The question was, among us the following, which is the basic condition? Which is the basic condition to identify the status of the individual? Basic condition. Basic conditions, okay? So the person must be in India for or more 182 days. That is the basic condition we all know. Person must be in India for less than 60 days. I have intentionally make this less than. So you might understand this point as a more than, but the condition is more than or equal to 60. So this is the wrong condition. There's no condition like this. This is for becoming a resident and not ordinary resident. So how could be all correct answer? If this is wrong, D could not be the answer. And that is for becoming a RNOR or ROR. For becoming a resident, there's only basic condition. So the correct answer is A. You have to read the provisional question very, very, very carefully when it's all about MCQs. Question number 5. Sudeep is a foreign citizen. His father was born in Agra in 1961 and mother was born in USA in 1960. His grandfather was born in Kanpur 1929. Sudeep visited India to see Taj Mahal. Of course, he came to India on 10th December 2024 for 200 days. He has never come to India before. His status for assessment year 25-26 will be, what would be the correct answer? Here, Beenu is saying B, Pranav B, Yashwani is saying again B. Hardik is saying D. I've told you, kindly read the question properly. Why you are in so much hurry? What is the benefit of giving the wrong answer after taking 30 seconds? It's better to give the correct answer even after taking 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. Why you are in so hurry? That is a wrong answer. The correct option is A. And that kind of question we discussed also in last class. He came to India. Students, you are not reaching, you are not reading the question proper. December 24 for 200 days. We have to find out up to 31st March 25 how many days in India. So for December, the day of arrival also considered as stay in India. So he is in India for 22 days in December, then January, then February, and then March. Out of 200 days, in this previous year, he was in India for 112 days only. He is coming to India first time. So he is not even fulfilling that 60-day condition. 60 plus 365. So how he would be a RNOR or resident or none? Kindly read the question carefully before giving your answers. Okay. Yes. Parveen is saying you gave a similar question as example when you were teaching. Yes. यही तो प्रॉब्लम है, बच्चे सुनते ही नहीं, बस क्वेश्चन देखा एंड आंसर. क्वेश्चन यू हैव टू सी द क्वेश्चन फर्स्ट, then apply the provision second stage and then give your answer. What you are doing, you are skipping the step number 2, reading the question, giving the answer, reading the question, giving the answer. There is no process involved. If any one of you applying provision before giving the answer, then you might be able to give the correct answer in most cases. So I'm not going to give any trophy to anyone who is going to give me the answer first or the correct answer. So take your time. Take your time, okay? There's a very interesting thing about your examination, your CA examination. What I actually observed when I was a student and when I was a teacher for 22 years. So we generally failed not due to those questions we do not know the answers. We generally failed due to we give the wrong answer to those questions. For those questions we already know the correct provision. This is the problem. अगर हिंदी में बताया जाए तो हम उन चीजों की वजह से एग्जाम में फेल होते हैं जो हमें आती हैं, वो क्वेश्चन जिनके प्रोविजन हमें अच्छी तरह आते हैं. जिस तरह के क्वेश्चन हमने सॉल्व किए हैं बुक्स में, स्टडी मटेरियल में, आरटीपी से, एमटीपी से, और हम एग्जाम में in a rush or due to nervousness or due to any reason we solve them wrongly. So maximum students do fail in the examination due to not those questions which they do not know, they left in the examination hall, but due to those questions the answer or the provision of those questions they already knew, but they are going to solve in the examination hall wrongly. Stop that habit. If you know the provision, try to solve that question correctly, and 40, 50, 60 marks, it's not a big task. If you are solving the question paper in a strategic manner, in a planning, without being nervous, in a proper way, it could be easily cracked if you are properly prepared for your examination. Of course. Okay, Praveen is asking how much time to be spent on an MCQ in exam. At least utna time jitne mein question samajh aaye, and you will be able to apply the provision. It's not about being spent. It's about if you should have enough time to implement the provision and then find out the answer. That time should be sufficient. It cannot be measured in minutes or seconds. It depends upon different category of student, depending upon their abilities. Okay. Mark my this word. Mark my this word. Remember this. Bilkul, whatever I've said just before now, why we got failed. Remember this. These are golden words. Not because of what you do not know in the paper. It's because of what you know in the examination, and still you solve that wrongly. That is the only reason maximum students not able to clear the paper. Okay. Okay, the following additional condition are to be satisfied by a person to be resident and ordinary resident in India. Question number 6. Okay, the correct answer is, of course, C. Because the reverse condition has been written that you have to be resident at least 2 years, of course, in the 10 preceding previous year, and you should be in India for 730 or more days. So if you are able to satisfy these conditions, you will be called a resident and ordinary resident. It means you are not satisfying that resident and not ordinary condition. Correct answer, students. 6 point question number 6. Correct answer is C. Now 7. An Indian citizen who is living in Delhi since 1980 left for Japan on 1st July 2021 for employment. He came back to India on 1st January 2024 on a visit and stayed for 4 months. His status for assessment year 25-26 would be So what should be the answer? Read the question properly and then give the correct answer. Question number 7 answers. I am waiting. Okay, somebody is saying C. Sajid is saying C. Shruti is C. Afsal is saying C. Over here, Kushi Gupta is saying C. The correct answer is C. Well done, because he came to visit India on 1st January. Again, the same kind of question, but up to 31st March, it would not cross more than 100 days. So that would be a non-resident. Well done. Learn from your mistakes. That's also a very important thing in your life. Fine. Paresh, a software engineer at ABC Limited, left India first time on 10th of August 2024 for the treatment of his wife. For income tax purpose, his residential status for assessment year 25-26. Suppose he did not come back to India in previous year 25-26. In previous year 24-25. He went out of India on 10th of August and he did not come back in that previous year. So what would be the status of Mr. Paresh? Somebody is saying B, Astha is saying B, Ritika is saying A. Okay. Kasake, Pranave, Sainath is saying A, Manvi is saying B, Pallavi is saying A, Hardik is saying B, Binu is saying A. Okay, the correct answer is of course A. Because he is going outside India, but not for permanent intention. So both condition will be applicable, correct? And he will satisfy 60 days plus 365 days condition. So he would be a resident in India in previous year 24-25. And because he was leaving India first time, so before preceding previous year 7, he would be in India more than 730 days. He would always, in all year, would be a resident. So he did not satisfy any condition to becoming a resident and not ordinary resident. So he would be a resident. A condition is correct. MCQ. Answer A is correct. Next is Kassak is asking, if goes permanently, even then he's ordinary resident for previous year? No. In the question number 8, if he would have gone for permanent intention, then only condition 1 would be checked. That is for 182 days or more. And of course, he is in India is less than 182 days because he left on 10th of August. So from 1st April till 10th of August, the day would be less than 182 days. So in that condition, he would be treated as a non-resident if he is going with a permanent intention. Clear? Next is 9. It's very, very easy question. Very easy. I don't know why I made this question because it's too easy for all of you. Determine the status of Mrs. Hasina, a person of Indian origin who came for visiting India on 15th April 2024 from Dubai and left India on 30th April 2024. Answer would be non-resident, of course. This is the easiest question, I believe, from all MCQs. A deemed resident would be always a resident and not ordinary resident. Okay, so those were the MCQs what we have discussed. Now we will move on to test your knowledge question. But before that, one simple concept has been left. Let me complete that. Then we would be able to solve illustration 1 also. Fine. There is a special condition also over here. In case of crew members of an Indian ship, there is just one different provision. So if as a passenger, we go out of India and coming back into India, then the provision says the day of departure and the day of arrival would be considered as in India, what we have already discussed. If we are going as a passenger, but if you are going as a crew member in a ship, In that case, this provision is reversed. There is some special provision. In a simple way, I can tell you, if you are going as a passenger, then the day of departure and the day of arrival will be including in India. And if you are a crew member, then that day of departure and the day of arrival will be deemed as stay outside India. Why it is so? Because of this provision. Okay, very simple. How to determine period of stay in India for an Indian citizen being a crew member? Okay, so we are discussing the provision for a crew member. In case of foreign bound ships where the destination of the voyage is outside India. So if you are in a foreign bound ship, the destination is outside India, there is uncertainty regarding the manner and the basis of determining the period of stay in India for an Indian citizen being a crew member. To remove this uncertainty, a special provision has been drafted. Explanation 2 to section 6.1 provides that in case of an individual, these conditions should be satisfied, individual being a citizen of India and a member of the crew of a foreign bound ship leaving India. You are on a ship which is going to leave India and the destination is somewhere outside India. The period of stay in India shall, in respect of such voyage, be determined in the prescribed manner. In that case, period of stay will be decided as per following condition. Let me tell you in a simple language what exactly the conditions. The day you will enter into that ship, ship is not going outside, ship is staying in India, but you enter in that ship and you signed a specific paper. So at that time, when you are actually entering into the ship, that day it will be started as you are outside India. But practically you are in Indian boundaries. The special provisions say if you are a crew member in that day, if you are entering into that ship, the day will be considered that as you are outside India. Till when you will be coming back and signing off. You are actually signing off from that ship. You are coming out of that ship. Till that date also will be considered as stay outside India. The technical language has been prescribed by rule number 126 of Income Tax Rule 1962, and this is the period to be excluded. Why it is excluded? They says take total number of days of a year, 365 or 366. Deduct these days. These days we are considering as outside India. These days we are considering as outside India. So this time will be as outside India. So remaining will be considered as balance will be in India. So what time should be excluded? So they have explained that from which day we will start deeming you as outside India, till which date you will be deemed as stayed outside India. So the provision says the date entered into the continuous discharge certificate. So there is a specific certificate which is going to be filled up when you enter into that ship in respect of joining the ship. So the day you join the ship and having this certificate, that day will be started at outside India. So that is your start date outside India. And the day entered into continuous discharge certificate in respect of signing off, leaving that ship in respect of that voyage, the time will end at that day. So suppose this is day 1 and this is day 150. So 150 days it will be assumed that you are outside India. So out of this 365 days, we reduce this 150, balance will be treated as you are in India, and upon these number of days, it will be decided whether you are a resident or not. That 182 days condition, that 60 days condition, that 365 days condition will be considered depending upon these days. We have an example also, do not worry. Rule aa gaya hamare paas. Rule number 126 in the income tax rules, compute the period of stay. As per this, in case individual being a citizen of India, member of crew of ship, the following time will not be included. Period commencing from the date of joining till the date of signing off. So you just learned these two words. It will really make this language very simple. The date from joining in, the date till signing off. that will be considered as outside India. Clear? We have an example. Suppose this is the format, total number of days, less these day of joining and signing off. If you will remove these days, the balance will be days stay in India. We have an example also. This is the same example which has been given as illustration number 1. And it says, suppose any crew member joining on 6 June 2024 and signing off on 9 December 24. So calculate days in India. So total 365 days. If it is a leap year, that it would be 366. Okay. Less days from 6th June till 9th of December. We will assume that you are outside India. So in that case, remaining day will be India will be called as stay in India. So in that case, he would be a non-resident, because if you are going as a crew member of an Indian ship, in that case, only first condition need to be checked, and that is not fulfilling. So you would be a non-resident. So always remember, joining into date till signing of date, this time would be considered as outside India. So that was the special case. We have completed all the provision to find out how you become a resident or not ordinary resident or ordinary resident or a non-resident. So these were the conditions we have all discussed till over here. Now we will move on with the provision which is for MCQs. We have completed. Now we will discuss illustration and then test your knowledge questions. Let's move on to the question part. Let me open your study material. Okay. So we will discuss one by one all illustration. Then we will move on to the test your knowledge question. Then we will start our part 2, which is for incidence of tax, in which you will see what is the impact of being a resident or non-resident. This is illustration number 1. You can see the same example regarding the crew member, what we have discussed, that has been given over here. We have already discussed this question. Illustration number 2, we discussed a little bit of this illustration in our last session. This is regarding the normal question of Mr. Bradley, because now we have completed all the provision to determine the residential status of an individual. So now we can solve all questions which is regarding for these provisions. So the question was, Bradley, an Australian cricketer player, visit India for 100 days in every financial year. This has been his practice for last 10 financial years. Find out his residential status. So because he is a foreign citizen, so both conditions would be applicable. The first condition, that is more than equal to 182 days, would not be fulfilled. But the second condition, that is for more than 60 days plus more than 365 days, that is going to be fulfilled in case number A. We have discussed this case in the last class in detail. So he would be a resident as per this case. But in 7 preceding previous year, he would be in India for 700 days. Because he comes to India for 100 days every year. So that's why he will be able to fulfill condition number 1 for becoming a resident and not ordinary resident. So the answer would be resident and not ordinary resident. This has been discussed in the last class. Now, point number B we need to discuss in detail. Would your answer change if the above facts relate to Srinath, an Indian citizen who reside in Australia and represent the Australian cricket team? So now they are saying, suppose that information which has been given above, that he is coming to India for 100 days, and this is doing from past financial years, 10 past financial years. So would your answer would be changed if it is not for Bradley, but it's for Srinath, which is an Indian citizen. So we have seen now this case falls in category B, second condition. If you are a citizen or person of Indian origin and you comes to India for visit, then only condition 1 will be applicable. And because the condition 1 will be applicable, so in that situation, you have to be a resident if you fulfill more than equal to 182 days condition. And because in this case, Mr. Srinath would not be able to fulfill this condition, so he would be treated as a non-resident. Clear? Now, what would be the case? The case C says, if Srinath has visited India for 120 days, instead of 100 days every year, including previous year 24-25. So again, this will fall under category B, second case. And in the second case, of course, he would be treated as a non-resident, but there is no information regarding his total income. Suppose if the information regarding total income has been given in this situation, that Mr. Srinath's total income is exceeding 15 lakh. Why I am discussing this condition? Because number of days exactly 120. And for that ways, there is a condition also there. So we could write it that if the total income exceeding 15 lakh, in that case, he would be able to fulfill B point third condition. In previous year, 120 days. And in last 4 preceding years, 400 days. So he would be a resident. And now for resident and not ordinary resident concept. The first condition that he should be in India for less than 730 days. That is also going to be fulfilled. No, sorry. 120 days instead of 100 days every year. So what will happen in this case? Let me solve in detail. So you can see if that's Srinath, we are solving the C case, fine, for 120 days. So if there is no total income information has been given, or we assume that it is not exceeding the 15 lakh, then he would be a non-resident. But suppose the total income exceeding 15 lakh, then in that case, we have to see the condition 1 or 2 for becoming a resident. First one is 182 days, that is not going to be fulfilled, but the second is more than equal to 120 days. And 4 years, because 120 days has been replaced, again, substituted for 100 days, then that would be 480 days. So he would fulfill this condition, would be a resident. Now, we are talking about resident and not ordinary resident, third case. So for that, we have 3 conditions. Less than 730 days, but because he's 120 days into 7 years, so that condition is not going to be fulfilled. Out of these 10 years, 9 should be non-resident. That should also not going to be fulfilled, but yes, this condition is going to fulfill 120 days and less than 182 days in previous year. So Srinath would be a resident and not ordinary resident in India in that scenario. Clear? Rovin is saying MCQ was very useful in understanding as well as recalling all the condition. Yes, of course. In the practical question, until you will practice with the numerical, etc., you won't be able to understand the provision clearly. And that also makes the things clear, also crystal clear. If you are going to solve some illustration questions, so the theoretical base also regarding those provisions and the numerical base, and it helps you to solve a question and examination, because practice is must. Without practice, we cannot perform. Okay. That was the question. Answer has been given, of course, over here. Then illustration number 2 has been completed. Now we are moving on to illustration number 3. Now, I always said you that whenever you read residential status question, always check it first that whether special provision has been applicable or not. Those condition number B cases. Is the question relates to B point 1, 2 or 3, because that is the main thing to check. Mr. B, a Canadian citizen, comes to India for the first time. During the previous year 20-21, during the 21, 21-22, 22-23, 23-24. These are the 4 years preceding previous year. And for previous year is 24-25. So he was in India for 55 days, 60 days, 90 days, 150 days respectively, and 70 days in the current year. So they want us to find out his residential status. Now he's a Canadian citizen. So specifically B part is not applicable. Only A, basic condition part is applicable. Both condition would be applicable. He's not going to fulfill the first one, but second, he might be able to satisfy it. So he's in India for 70 days in this year, and the last 4 preceding previous year. He is in India in total 355 days. It should be at least 365, but he's in India only for 355 days. So technically not fulfilling 1, not fulfilling 2. So he would be also called a non-resident. So you can see the solution, we have total 355 days in India. So he would be called a non-resident. That was illustration number 3. Now we'll see the illustration number 4, which is for HUF. After this illustration, we will solve test your knowledge questions, or we could go for a break. Then when we will resume with, of course, a short story, and then we will solve test your knowledge questions. So illustration number 4, it says the business of HUF is transacted from Australia. Okay. All the policy decisions are taken there. Very good. Okay, after this illustration, I will ask a question regarding residential status. Okay. Mr. E, the Karta of the HUF, who was born in Kolkata, visit India during the previous year 24-25 after 15 years. So that means from last 15 years, he was not in India. He comes to India on 1st April 24 and leaves for Australia on 1st December 2024. Determine the residential status of Mr. E and the HUF for assessment year 25-26. So first of all the policy decisions has been taken in Australia. So that means HUF will be non-resident. So question asking the status of HUF that we have determined. They also ask the status of Mr. E. So Mr. E is an individual, whether he is a citizen of India. So that has not been mentioned, that whether he is a citizen of India or not. So because it has not been mentioned, so we will see how many days he was in India. He came on 1st April 2024 till 1st of December. So that would be April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November and December first day. So aggregate would be how much? That would be 245 days. So he is satisfying condition number 1. 182 days, he would be a resident. Now to become a resident and not ordinary resident, you should be in India for less than 730 days. He came to India first time. So in 7 preceding previous year, he was in India for 0 days. So if fulfill that condition, he would be treated as a resident and not ordinary resident. Okay. That was illustration number 4. Now I'm going to ask a simple question. Let's see who is going to give the answer. So let me tell you. Take time and then give the correct answer. Okay. So X, Y, Z and company is a partnership firm having 4 partners A, B, C and D. A is resident and ordinary resident. The firm is of course registered in India. B is resident but not ordinary resident. C is resident and ordinary resident. And D is non-resident. What should be the residential status of X, Y, Z and company. Okay, let's see. Who is going to give the correct answer? Okay, Dilip is saying resident. So company is registered in India, so it will be a resident. Pranav is saying, okay. Divyarani is saying resident. Bhavna is saying resident. Okay. Veda is saying resident. Kasak is saying resident. Hardik is saying registered in India, so resident. Arun Mishra is saying resident. Very good. Well done. Well done, everyone. Well done. Okay. Anirudh is saying depend upon. Okay. Dipali is saying resident. VR Niketana is saying resident. Ajay Surya resident. Nayan Patil. Okay. Ashutosh is saying resident. Maruju. Marauju is saying resident. Pooja Pradeep Singh is saying resident. Okay. Bhumika is saying resident. Any more answers? Jinki Mishra is saying resident. Karan is saying resident. Manvi is saying resident. Well done, well done. तुम लोगों को समझ नहीं आया क्वेश्चन इनकम्प्लीट है you cannot give the answer of this question ही incomplete है the question is incomplete how you are able to find out the resident or non-resident you all are almighty god मतलब even I can't answer this question even institute cannot answer this question even income tax department cannot give the answer of this question and you decided just like that that's a resident or non-resident resident non-resident resident non-resident. That exactly I was saying to you. Whenever you listen some question, kindly process with the provision. When I write it down, find out the register status of this firm. So how many of you thought about the provision of firm? Those give the answer like just like that resident, non-resident, resident, non-resident. They do not follow the process of applying the provision. What is the concept of now? Do not give me the answer like place and management, etc. Those already have given the answer resident, non-resident. You should not change your answer now. So for the partnership firm, the registered status will be depending upon the control and management. I did not give you any information regarding the control and management. Whatever is the partner status, that is completely irrelevant. Zero, null and void. It just give you to confused you. So you might have seen, okay, fine, this is resident, resident, majorities are resident, so we will consider that resident or whether it's registered. Registered does not matter. It's all about control and management, business meeting, etc. So those already have given the answer resident, non-resident. I request you all, please save yourself. Please save yourself. बाकी तो किसी का पता नहीं, but please save yourself. As government is trying to save a very species that's going to be end in our world, and I believe that you must save yourself first. Okay. Oh God, why you do not read the question? I have asked you multiple times that please read the question, apply the provision, then only answer. The second step, application of provisions is very important. Okay, now you must be saying, oh God, ये क्या कर दिया? ऐसा कैसा answer दे दिया? अरे नहीं अब नहीं होगा. You will repeat that because that is the habit you are actually using for answers. That you listen the question and you just give the answer. Take your time, apply the provision. Okay. So before examination, if you are able to sort all these things, if you are able to change your habit, that would be really good for you also and good for us also. Okay. So now we will move on for a short break and then we will come back with the provision. So, Bhargav sir, can we go for a short break? So, welcome back, everyone. I believe you must have your tea, coffee, and water for the energy what we need for next 1 hour also again. So, okay, somebody sent Shruti Kumari is saying meeting place depend for company POEM. Shruti Kumari, the example that I have asked you for ABC and company, that is not for company. That was a partnership firm. Company always have limited or private limited word. So you cannot say it's regarding POEM because POEM is for company and that a question does not belong to the company case. Okay. Next is okay. So before starting or resume with the test your knowledge question sheet, here's a small story for all of you, and it would be in Hindi and a little bit in English also. Stories just like that. एक बच्चा था जो कि स्कूल में पढ़ता था और पढ़ाई में काफी अच्छा था, हमेशा क्लास में अच्छे नंबर आते थे. बट व्हाट हैपेंड वंस, एक बार वो बीमार हुआ. he felt sick and due to that sickness the examination in which he was appearing, उसके एग्जामिनेशन उतने अच्छे नहीं हुए और काफी खराब मार्क्स आए. उसके बाद स्कूल के सारे बच्चे उसे टीज करने लगे, बुली करने लगे, चिढ़ाने लगे कि तुम फेलियर हो, तुम्हारे अच्छे मार्क्स नहीं आए, एंड ही वाज गेटिंग डिप्रेस्ड. जब स्कूल से घर आता था तब भी रास्ते में बहुत सारे बच्चे मिलते थे, उसका मजाक उड़ाते थे. एंड जब घर से अपनी ट्यूशन जाता था तो भी रास्ते में बहुत सारे बच्चे उसका मजाक उड़ाते थे कि यू आर नॉट एबल टू डू एनीथिंग इन योर लाइफ बिकॉज तुम्हारे इतने खराब मार्क्स आए हैं, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा. सो जो उसके टीचर थे, जो उसके ट्यूशन टीचर थे जहाँ वो पढ़ने जाता था, सो ही वॉज रियलाइजिंग कि समथिंग इज रॉन्ग. तो उन्होंने पूछा उसको बुलाकर कि व्हाई योर परफॉर्मेंस इज डिग्रेडिंग एवरी ईयर और एवरी डे और एवरी मंथ, यू आर एक्चुअली नॉट परफॉर्मिंग वेल, योर परफॉर्मेंस इज वेरी बैड. तो उसने बताया कि मेरे मार्क्स खराब आए ड्यू टू आई वाज सिक. एंड उसके बाद अब क्या होता है कि सब मेरा मजाक बनाते हैं, मैं स्कूल आता हूँ तो भी, जाता हूँ तो भी, आपके पास आता हूँ तो भी. तो उसके सर ने कहा ओके, कल मैं तुम्हें इसके लिए एक ट्रिक बताऊंगा. सो व्हेन यू कम टुमारो आई विल टेल यू अ ट्रिक दैट हाउ यू कैन अवॉइड ऑल दीज थिंग्स एंड कैसे सब लोग आपके बारे में बात करना बंद कर देंगे. नेक्स्ट जब वो आया तो जब वो वापस जाने लगा तो उसने कहा था सर आपने मुझे बोला था आप ट्रिक बताओगे. तो उन्होंने उसको एक जग दिया, एक जग, वाटर जग, जिसके ऊपर कुछ कैप नहीं, ओपन जग. उन्होंने कहा तुम्हें 10 डेज तक इस जग को 10% भर कर लाना है अपने घर से, इसमें पानी भर के लाना है मेरी ट्यूशन तक. और आज 10% भरोगे, फिर कल 10% और फिर परसों, ऐसे कर कर आप 10 दिन तक लगातार लेकर आओ. इट्स अ मैजिक जग. एंड इसको लेके आने से लोग आपके बारे में जो बच्चे मजाक उड़ाते हैं वो छोड़ देंगे, बिकॉज एक मैजिक जग है. उसने देखा बहुत ही सुंदर सा जग था. मैंने कहा ठीक है. सो बिलीव तो नहीं हुआ ऐसा होगा, बट ही वाज ट्राइंग. ठीक है सर ने बोला है तो करते हैं. तो सेकंड डे जब वो आया, फर्स्ट डे जब वो आया जग को 10% फिल कर कर, तो उसके सर ने उससे पूछा आज लोगों ने बोला? तो बोला हाँ सबने बोला मेरे को. वैसे ही जैसे रोज बोलते हैं, कोई फायदा नहीं हुआ इस मैजिक जग का. उन्होंने कहा अभी टाइम लगेगा. सेकंड डे हुआ, फिर पूछा, उन्होंने कहा हाँ आज भी बोला मेरे को. कहा थर्ड फोर्थ फिफ्थ डे जब जग आधा भर गया, उन्होंने पूछा कि अब कुछ हुआ? तो बोला हाँ कुछ लोगों ने कम बोला, लेकिन अभी भी सब मुझे बोल रहे हैं, थोड़ा कम है बट बोल रहे हैं. फिर जब 7 8 9th डे आया तो जग ऑलमोस्ट फिल होने वाला था. मैं पानी नहीं गिरना चाहिए, सर ने बोला था पानी नहीं गिरना चाहिए, नॉट गिवन सिंगल ड्रॉप शुड फॉल. जब 9th डे वो आया तो उसने बोला आज के, उसने अरे गुरुजी कमाल हो गया, आज तो मतलब बहुत लोगों ने मेरे बारे में कुछ भी बोला. मुझे बहुत ही क्या हुआ इसमें नेट में. सो जब 9th डे पर वो आया तो उसने कहा सर आज तो किसी ने कुछ बोला ही नहीं. 9th डे पर बहुत कम लोगों ने कुछ बोला. एंड जब 10th डे पर वो आया तो जग पूरा फुल हो गया. एंड इन दैट केस उन्होंने पूछा आज किसी ने कुछ बोला? उन्होंने कहा आज तो सर कमाल हो गया, आज तो किसी ने भी कुछ नहीं बोला, किसी ने भी. सब ने बोलना छोड़ दिया जग के मैजिक की वजह से. उन्होंने कहा अच्छा, कल बिना जग के आए। जब कल वो बिना जग के आया, तो फिर अगेन उसने कहा सर आज फिर सब बोल रहे थे, देखा जग आप मुझे दे दीजिए परमानेंटली, और इसके मैजिक से कोई कुछ नहीं बोलता। देन उनके सर ने उसे बोला कि वन और डे 10 हर दिन आने रहे, तो लोग, इज देयर एनी इंटरनेट इश्यू? लेट मी सी स्टूडेंट्स, that is correct, it's properly okay, I hope it's clear now. तो जब 10th डे के बाद वो आया नेक्स्ट डे, तो इट वाज लैगिंग माइंड। सो उन्होंने कहा कि सब वैसा ही बोल रहे थे और हर दिन ज्यादा बोल रहे थे, बिकॉज लोग अब तुम्हें बेवकूफ भी कह रहे हैं कि तुम क्या पानी का जग लेके जाते हो। बट द प्रॉब्लम इज एक्चुअली यू आर फोकस्ड। जैसे जैसे जग भरता गया यू आर फोकस्ड ऑन कि मेरा जो टारगेट है, मेरा जो फोकस है वो ये है कि वाटर नहीं गिरना चाहिए। So because you are focused by every day on 9th and 10th day, your full focus on the jug, that is your aim, that was your goal कि ये नहीं खराब होना चाहिए। So due to that, लोगों की बातें आपको नहीं सुनाई दी। लोग तो रोज बोल रहे हैं और बोलते ही रहेंगे कुछ भी करो। बट इट्स ऑल अबाउट कि आप अगर अपने गोल के लिए फोकस्ड हो, इन द सेम वे इफ यू आर डूइंग सी, तो बहुत रिलेटिव्स होंगे, दे मस्ट से कि आपसे नहीं होगा, नहीं कर पाओगे, एक्सेट्रा। सो डू नॉट हियर दोज पीपल, जस्ट इग्नोर दैट। बिलीव इन योर सेल्फ, अपने फोकस जो गोल है उस पर फोकस रखो। सो इफ यू आर मोर फोकस्ड अबाउट योर गोल, सो व्हाट दे पीपल से इट विल नॉट मैटर फॉर यू एट ऑल। So that was the story for today, and now we are moving on to the provision, that is test your knowledge questions. So we have discussed the illustrations. Now the test your knowledge questions, one by one we will discuss. This is question number one. Mr. Ram and some issues there. So Bhargav is starting the, just a second बच्चों। Mr. Bhargav, is there any issue with net at my part? My network is slow. Okay, just give me a minute. I'll be back. Okay, students, back. There was some internet glitch, of course, होता ही रहता है. Okay, so we are now test your knowledge question. Question number 1 is here. Mr. Ram, an Indian citizen, left India on 22nd September 2024 for the first time to work as an officer of a company in Germany. Determine the residential status of Ram for assessment year 25-26. So the provision says that Mr. Ram, an Indian citizen. So we all know, because he's an Indian citizen, so technically a special provision, category B provision will be applicable. Left India on 22nd September 24 for the first time to work as an officer of a company in Germany. That means he is going permanently. So because a citizen is going outside India for job, etc. So condition 1 only need to be checked, 182 days. And he left India on 22nd of September. So if we will calculate the number of days he is in India, that would be April, May, June, July, August, and September. So that would be 175 days. So he is not satisfying condition number 1. So he would be a non-resident. I hope it's clear. It's very simple question. Now question number 2. Mr. Dev, residing in USA till 1990, visit India for 30 days every year. He came back to India on 1st April 23 for permanent settlement. So now he is coming India and he came to India on 1st April 2023 for permanent status, and we need to find out the status for 25-26. So he was in India, he is coming to India for permanent settlement, and he was residing outside India. Both conditions need to be checked out. So for the purpose of 24-25, he was in India for more than or equal to 182 days because he shifted into India permanently on 1st April 23. So that means for 24-25 previous year, he was in India for full time. So he is satisfying condition number 1. So he would be a resident. Now, after becoming a resident, now we need to check whether he or she is able to satisfy the extra condition to becoming a resident and not ordinary resident. And you can see in last 7 preceding previous year, in previous year 23-24, he was in India for full year 365 because he came back India on 1st April 2023. And next 6 years, he was in India for 30 days every year. Total is 180 days. So it is less than 730 days. So he is satisfying that condition also. So he would be regarded as a resident and not ordinary resident. That is question number 2. Clear? Other test your knowledge question connected to the other topic, that is incidence of tax. So after completing that, the remaining illustration and remaining test your knowledge question we will discuss. Okay. Before that, let me see. A question has been asked from Raman. Sir, when we have to check whether a person is from Indian origin or not, so we have to check his or her grandparents or parents born in Hindu undivided India. What is Hindu undivided India? It says only undivided India. There is no word like Hindu undivided India. On or before 1/4/1947, right? But if there is a case to check registered Mr. A and Mrs. A who were living outside India since long time, but Mr. A grandparents born in Hindu undivided India. So for Mr. A, we have to consider same or not. If you are a person of Indian originate, if anyone's citizenship or person of Indian origin, you need to check anyone. So it depends upon the birth of himself or his parents or its grandparent. Whether he is born in India or not does not matter. Whether somebody is born in India or not does not matter. But to become a person of Indian origin, it's himself or his parents or his grandparents' birth, that matters. We have discussed that in the last session in detail. Okay. So now moving on to the remaining provision we need to cover. That was incidence of tax. In this case, you will understand, you will see that why we need to find out the residential status. Why we need to find out the residential status and why that is so important for us. And due to that, there was a question we discussed about the session number 2, test your knowledge. Yes, 23-24 is a leap year, so that would be 366 days, correct? Somebody just send in the chat box. I skipped that. 23-24 is a leap year, so that would be 366 days. And 6 into 30 days for last 6 years, so that would be again less than 730 days, okay? So now we will see why it is important and what is the impact of being a resident or non-resident in India. So now you will see the taxability effect on resident and being ordinary resident, resident or not ordinary resident, or non-resident. So tax is chasing you like a rocket and you are running to save yourself. So let's see what is the benefit. And earlier I also told you that if you become a non-resident, so that is a better position, that is a better information, that is a better thing for you from the point of view of taxability. Incidence of tax section 5 says scope of total income. Section 5 provides the scope of total income in terms of residential status of the assessee, because the incidence of tax means burden of tax on any person depend upon his residential status. The scope of total income of an assessee depends upon the following 3 important consideration. First one, what is your residential status? That is utmost important regarding the taxability. The place of accrual or receipt of income. What is the place of accrual and what is the receipt of income, whether actual or deemed? So where income is accruing or where income is receipt, that is also important for the purpose of taxability, and the point of time at which the income had accrued or was received by or on behalf of the assessee. So these 3 things is impacting your taxability, your status, the arise or accrual of your income or the receipt, or at what point of time that income has been accrued. How it actually impact the taxability, that we will also see one by one. The admit of total income of the 3 classes of assessee would be as follows. Resident and ordinary resident. So now it is explaining that what kind of income is going to be taxable in the hands of a resident and ordinary resident. So if you are a resident and ordinary resident, then in that situation, the total income of a resident assessee would under section 5.1 consist of income received or deemed to be received in India. This is going to be taxable. What is the meaning of income deemed to be received? That will also be discussed in detail later in this chapter. Second, income which accrue or arise or deemed to accrue or arise in India, also going to be taxable for the purpose of resident or ordinary resident. So income received, deemed to be received, income arise, deemed to accrue or arise in India is going to be taxable, or income which accrue or arise even outside India is going to be taxable for the purpose of a resident and ordinary resident. So technically, everything is going to be taxable for a resident and ordinary resident. Everything. Every kind of income which arise or received during the previous year, or the income which relates to the previous year, is going to be taxable if you are a resident or ordinary resident. In simple term, a resident and ordinary resident has to pay tax on the total income accrued or deemed to accrued, received or deemed to receive in or outside India. So there is no escape for a resident and ordinary resident. All kind of income is going to be taxable for that person. Now, if you are a resident and not ordinary resident, then what will happen? Under section 5.1, the computation of total income of a resident but not ordinary resident is the same as in the case of a resident and ordinary resident. Except there's only one difference. There's only one difference in the taxability. For the fact that the income accruing or arising to him outside India is not to be included in his total income. So if any income accrue arising outside India, then that is not going to be taxable for the resident and not ordinary resident. All other incomes are going to be taxable as same in case of resident and ordinary resident and resident and not ordinary resident. You might be feeling this language very complicated. Even I am not going to explain the meaning over here because I have a other plan. After reading the third person non-resident, I have prepared a format, a table, in which you will understand what is the meaning of taxability for which person and exactly the meaning of each term, what we are using over here. Like you can see, there is one more term which says, however, where such income is derived from a business controlled in our profession set up in India, then that income is also going to be taxable for a resident and not ordinary resident. Now here comes the third category of person, that is non-resident. So non-resident needs to pay tax only on two kinds of income. If those have been arise accrue in India or if those has been received or deemed to be received in India. You can see that total income for a non-resident includes income received, deemed to be received in India in previous year. Income which accrue or arise or deemed to accrue arise in India in the previous year. So only two incomes required to be taxable in the hands of non-resident. Which income deemed to accrue arise in India are? These has been given over here. Any income accruing arising in any place outside India, whether directly, indirectly, through business connection, from any property, from transfer of any asset or source, transfer of a capital asset, that would be treated as income deemed to accrue or arise in India. We will discuss that in detail. Here is the format or the table I was talking to. After reading this table, all the provision we just discussed in above provisions, that you will understand completely after discussing this table. So this will technically going to explain each and everything in detail with the help of an example also. Okay. Kasak is saying, sir, for resident, we only have to check the conditions. Even if a person not a citizen and not Indian origin, we have to check the condition. Yes, we have to apply for the purpose of being resident or non-resident. We have to apply condition on each and every individual. If he's a citizen or POIU, then conditions would be changed. First condition would be applicable, etc. Otherwise, we need to apply the condition on each and every person, to whomsoever it may concern. Okay, whether he or she is a foreign citizen or Indian citizen, does not matter. We need to apply these conditions upon each and every one. Okay, now we understand the incidence of tax concept one by one. So you can see I have made 4 columns. First one is regarding the particulars, and technically these are types of income. The particulars is technically types of incomes. And these other 3 columns is like person category, ordinary resident, then means resident and ordinary resident. This is RNOR and this is our NR. So these are types of income, and that will explain which type of income is going to be taxable in which category of residential status person. First is income arise, earn or deemed to arise or earn in India while received anywhere. So if income arise, accrue or earn in India, or if it's income deemed to arise, accrue or earn in India while received anywhere. So receivability is irrelevant, but the main concept is arise. So if any income has been earned, arise or accrue from India. What is the meaning of deemed? Deemed means indirectly arise. What is the meaning of indirectly? That will be explained in detail in section 9.1 in this chapter only. So arise means directly earning from India. Deemed to arise means indirectly earning from India. That is going to be taxable for all category of person. There is no benefit to anyone. Whether you are a non-resident, whether you are a not ordinary resident, whether you are a ordinary resident. So if there is an income which is arise or earn or deemed to arise or earn in India, whether received anywhere, that is going to be taxable for all category of person. What is the meaning of deemed to arise? That we will discuss later under section 9.1 in this chapter. Let me give you an example of income arise or accrue in India. Suppose there is a doctor who comes from USA to visit India. During his visit in India, he completed some surgeries in India also. So he provides some services in India also. He provides some consultancy regarding his profession, some surgery, some operation, etc. For that, the income or the fees, that would have been 50 lakh rupees. But he said, I will not receive this income in India. Kindly transfer this income in my bank account in USA. So he received this income technically outside India in USA. He received that income outside India in USA. But where this income has been arise means where you provide the service, where you earn this income. The income has been earned in India because the surgery, the consultancy, etc. has been provided in India. So this income is technically arise from India. Mr. D would be a non-resident. He comes to India first time. He was in India only for 50 days. During that 50 days, he earned 50 lakh rupees after providing some consultancy, surgeries, operation, etc. And he said, I would not receive that income in India. Kindly transfer that India into my USA bank account. And we did so. Still, that income needs to be taxable for Mr. D because it has been arise in India. If that income has been received by Mr. D in India, then arise in India and received in India both. But the point number one say, if you arise income in India, then it does not matter whether it is received or not. If arise is there, if arise in India, then it's going to be taxable whether you are a resident, not ordinary resident, or resident and ordinary resident. So that was the first case. As I am providing services over here and I am getting payment from ICAI. So where I am providing these services in India. So that is again arise in India. Whether I receive that amount in India or not does not matter. That is going to be taxable for me also. Okay. That was the first case which explained the meaning of arise, earn, etc. We will discuss the meaning of deemed to arise or earn, etc. later in this chapter. So if the income has been arise from India, then it does not matter. It's taxable for each and everyone. Next is income received or deemed to be received in India, while earn or arise anywhere. Now the main condition is if income is arised or received or deemed to be received, the condition is vice versa. First point was saying if arise in India, received anywhere, taxable. Now second is reverse. It says whether received in India, arise anywhere is still taxable for everyone. No advantage, no benefit. Taxable for everyone. Let me show you with the help of an example. Suppose Mr. A He is a non-resident. He is doing job in India in Reliance company. His salary is for a year 40 lakh rupees. He asked that I will not receive this salary in my Indian account. Kindly transfer my salary in my USA account. So that would be example of, again, not second point, first one, arise in India, because he is providing services in India. That is not the example of point number 2. This is one more example of point number 1. Now the second point says, just reverse this case. Suppose like this, Mr. A non-resident who is working in Reliance company, or suppose he is working in XYZ foreign company in USA. So he's working in USA foreign company and earning salary 40 lakh rupees. But he said, kindly transfer my salary in my Indian bank account, 40 lakh rupees in India. So now he received income in India. He does not earn that income in India, but he technically received that income in India. So even if you are a non-resident and earn income anywhere in this world, but if you receive that income in India, that is going to be taxable for you also. So if the income has been received in India, you need to pay tax on it, being even a non-resident. Clear? You can understand with the reverse example, some doctor of India went outside India and USA and provide some surgery, etc. So he's technically providing services outside India, but he asked to his client that kindly transfer that amount, kindly transfer that income into my Indian bank account. I will receive that income in India. So because even if you provide the services outside India, earn outside India, arise outside India, but received in India, that is also going to be taxable for you in India. So that was point number 2. Somebody is asking in chat box, Arun Mishra, what if income is taxable in USA also? It might be possible that government will also take tax because that is arise in USA. So that income is going to be taxable in India because you are receiving in India, but might be USA governments ask for tax also on that income. So that will be a double taxation. But for that, we have a chapter that is called International Taxation Part, chapter Double Taxation Avoidance Agreement. We called it DTAA. Section 90 and 91 deals with it. So if there is that kind of situation, in any case, when income is taxable in 2 countries, then there is some solution for that has been in chapter DTAA, and that we will discuss when you will be in final level. That is not the part of our intermediate level. Okay. So you can see in the first example, the income was arise in India, but received anywhere. The example number 2 or case number 2 is, it says when income received or deemed to received in India. What is the meaning of deemed to receive? That will also be discussed in this chapter. And arise anywhere. So these 2 kinds of income is taxable for each and everyone. There is no benefit of becoming a NOR, ORR or NR. These are going to be taxed. But point number 3 is different. Now, point number 3 says income received and arise outside India. Now, both activities is actually outside India. Income received and arise outside India, but business controlled from India. Now, that is a different situation. So now both activity has been taken outside India, but if business is controlled or set up from India, then that kind of income is going to be taxable for ROR and RNOR and not going to be taxable for NR. So this is the first benefit for becoming a non-resident. So if there is income received and arise outside India, but business controlled from India, in that situation, that is going to be taxable only for ROR and RNOR, not for non-resident. Let me show you how. Suppose there is Mr. A who is working in USA in a company XYZ Limited and getting salary over there, 50 lakh rupees. Arise there, received there. But this business has been set up from India. There's a branch. This is a branch. XYZ branch is here. It's not a company, it's a branch. But the business is set up XYZ Limited in India. The head office is over here. And in the branch you are working in USA. That's a branch of XYZ Limited. So if business is controlled from India, in that situation, that salary is going to be taxable if Mr. A is a ROR, if Mr. A is a RNOR. But if Mr. A is a non-resident, then he need not to pay tax on this salary in India. So if you are earning any income outside India, receiving it outside India also, but the business controlled from India, set up from India, in that case, ROR and RNOR needs to pay tax on that income. Next is point number 4. Now all the activities are outside India. Arise, received, control, setup, everything is outside India. So you can see now income received, arise, outside India, business controlled from outside India. Then taxable for only ROR, non-taxable for RNOR, and non-taxable for non-resident. So these were the point what we were discussing over here. What you were feeling that what is the language, what exactly they want to say. Now, if you will, after this table, if you will read this provision, you will be really amazed that now you will understand exactly what these provisions are trying to explain after this table. So point number 4 is saying if income arise outside India, received outside India, control outside India, then only ROR needs to pay tax on it. As I have told you, being a ROR is the most saddest thing from the point of view of taxability, because even if you are earning income anywhere in this world or even from out of the world, you have to pay tax on that income in India. Like suppose, why suppose, actually I am a ROR. We all are technically ROR. Okay? So if technically we are going outside India and earning income anywhere, receiving anywhere, even from Mars, we went to the moon or Mars, and we earn some income on moon and Mars, still we need to pay tax on that income in India because we are ordinary, we are resident and ordinary resident. So a resident and ordinary resident need to pay tax on any kind of income which he or she earned in previous year. It does not matter whether it is arised, whether it is received, whether it has been controlled. The resident and not ordinary resident needs to pay tax on everything except on those income which has been arised, received and controlled from outside India, and non-resident needs to pay tax only on 2 income. Whether it's arise in India or received in India, only 2 income needs to be taxable for a non-resident. Now these 4 points are easy, but I am more concerned about point number 5. Point number 5 might confuse you in the examination because you can see it is non-taxable, taxable. No, it is not applicable concept. But there will be some points related to question number 5 in a related to point number 5 in a question. And if you did not understood those points, or if you did not solve those points cleverly, you might give a wrong answer of your question. So it's very important to understand point number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 is very clearly will be visible in the question. But 5th is a point which might confuse you a lot in the examination. So please be focused when we are discussing point number 5. There are in 2 parts, A and B. It says income of earlier years. If given in question, earlier year or preceding year, you need not to do anything with that. It is not applicable for everyone. Because why? We need to taxable only the previous year income. We does not need to do anything with the preceding year income. So if in the examination it has been given then there is some income of 5 lakh rupees arise in India for preceding previous year. Then that is not the part of our tea. We have to leave it. But not a part of our cup of tea, we have to leave it. We have to ignore it completely. And if it is included in the current year income, suppose the question says the current year income is 10 lakh rupees and the preceding year income is 1 lakh, which is included in this. Then we just need to solve the question for 9 lakh rupees. The 1 lakh should be excluded if it has been included in our current year income. And if it says like this, that current year income is 10 lakh rupees and preceding year income is 1 lakh rupees, then we will treat only 10 lakh because it is not included in it. So please read the language carefully. So if the language says total income is 10 lakh, out of which 2 lakh relates to the preceding year income, so we will solve with the 8 lakh rupees provision. And if it says 10 lakh rupees current year income, 2 lakh rupees preceding year income separately given, then we will ignore that 2 lakh rupees income. We will only solve for 10 lakh rupees income. So it will depend upon the question how this information has been given. My solution is that whatever amount relates to the earlier year income or preceding year income, you have to avoid it. Whether you need to deduct it from the total income or you need to ignore it. Only two ways will be there. You need not to do anything with that. Okay. Now B point. It says income brought or remitted into India. These are also irrelevant for us. We need to ignore it. Always ignore this information, whatever in question or by whatever way it has been given. That income has been received is important. You can see income is taxable on the basis of received, arise, controlled. Income is received somewhere and then if you brought into India or remit into India, that information is completely irrelevant. You need not to read that line in which it has been written that some amount of income has been remit to India. Just ignore that line. Preceding year income information you have to either ignore or exclude depending upon the case to case basis. If it is included in your income, then you need to exclude it. And if it is not included separately given, then ignore. But for income brought or remitted, there's a universal rule. You always ignore it. Always ignore, not applicable. Because taxability is not due to the remittance way. Taxability depends upon where you earn income, where you receive it, and from where it has been controlled. For example, I have earned 50 lakh rupees in this year, suppose only, okay. Then I am going to travel outside India for some time. I took 10 lakh rupees with myself for the purpose of traveling. I traveled outside India and came back, and the balance left with me is 3 lakh rupees. So that 3 lakh is also going to be taxable again because I'm bringing that money? No, because it is called a remittance. It is the same money on which I have already paid the tax. In the same way, if somebody has earned income in USA, received income in USA, business controlled from USA 50 lakh rupees. So that income is going to be taxable for resident and ordinary resident only in India. Suppose he's a non-resident earning income in USA, receiving income in USA and controlled from USA. That 50 lakh is not going to be taxable because he's a non-resident in India. That person coming into India and bringing 10 lakh rupees in India with himself for any purpose whatsoever. So that 10 lakh cannot be taxed because it is not received in India, not arise in India. It is only remittance or brought in India. So that brought in remittance is not considered as an income at all. Okay. Let me show you with the help of an example. This table has been completed. So I will only discuss with that two point number A and B of point number 5. Suppose the question says, Mr. A total income is 10 lakh rupees, out of which 2 lakh belongs to preceding or earlier year, untaxed income. So what would be the treatment in the hands of ROR, RNOR, NR? If 10 lakh was earned in USA and received in US. If the question does not mention the business control from where, then it would be assumed in the country from which country information has been given. So because question is silent about the setup and control, so we will assume that business has been controlled from USA. So now, because it says 10 lakh, out of which 2 lakh belongs to preceding year untaxed income. So we have only 8 lakh rupees income for current year, for which we will solve the question. This is going to be taxable if you are a resident and not a resident. It's for non-taxable, non-taxable. As simple as that. Now, change of question. Mr. A earned 10 lakh rupees in USA, out of which 1 lakh remitted into India, business control from India. Now, this is the interesting question. So I've told you remittance information is completely irrelevant. So if I am going to solve this question in the examination, so I will delete this line. I will ignore this line. 1 lakh remit. Remove that. Now suppose question is just this. Mr. A earned 10 lakh in USA, out of which also remove this. Mr. A earned 10 lakh rupees in USA, controlled from India. Question is silent where it has been received. Then you should assume it has been received in USA only. So if you are a ROR, this is going to be taxable. If you are a RNOR, this is again going to be taxable full because controlled from India. For a non-resident, non-taxable. And now the last question. I will see who from you able to solve that. Fine. It is in two parts. Mr. X earned 20 lakh rupees in USA, out of which 3 lakh earlier year untaxed income. Business controlled from India. Wait, more to come. Out of current year income from 20 lakh, 4 lakh rupees received in India and 1 lakh rupees remitted into India. Okay, so if you are able to solve this question, you are able to solve each and every question of this topic. Illustration number 2, 3, 4, 5, you are able to solve each and every illustration. The third point is technically, I have actually combined it with multiple conditions. So you need to apply your provisions, concept, and kindly give me the answer of all three category, ROR, RNOR, and NR. ये आशुतोष कह रहे हैं ROR 17, RNOR 17, NR 4. Okay. Okay. Sudhir कह रहे हैं 20 lakh for ROR and RNOR. Okay. Let's see in the chat box. Okay. So Arun asking, sir, according to 5A, once income of some previous year preceding, if income is untaxed of any earlier year, that's a part of income tax, black money concept, they will recover it in other way, but that will not be the part of our this question. That is a separate recovery method for that. Okay. Pallavi is saying 17 lakh is taxable for current previous year for ROR and RNOR, and for NR. ROR 17, RNOR 17, and NR 4 lakh. Anirudh is saying whether he's saving 7, 7, and 0. Hardik is saying 7, 7 non-taxable. Bhumika is saving 17, 17. NR is not applicable. Aisha is saying 17 lakh for all. Pallavi is saying 17 lakh is taxable for NR. Okay. Dilip is saying 17, 17, and 4. Ajay Surya is saying 36 lakh. 36 lakh कहाँ से आए? Shibu is saying 20, 24. Then Afsal Akram 17, 17 not applicable. Kasak 17 for all. Okay. Anirudh 17, 17, 4. Praveen 16, 16, 4. Lahiri, sir, but in salary, the area of salary income of preceding year is included in tax in the previous year. Can you clarify, Mr. Lahiri? You might not know the exact meaning of area of salary. That is a salary which has not been due or received that has been taxed in this year due to retrospective fact. That is not the black money case. It is a different case, but what we are discussing over here, that is a untaxed income, which is black money. Okay, so the correct answer, most of you have said almost the correct answer, but what exactly the correct answer? Initially, we have to find out that what is the current year income in this question. So that was simple. 20 lakh was total. 3 years were earlier untaxed income. So my current year income is 17 lakh. So treatment of 17 lakh would be done. Whether it's ROR, RNOR, and NR. That we need to see. So this part has been cleared. Earn in USA. Clear. And for resident and resident and ordinary resident, it does not matter where it's income. Whatever income is relates to current year, that is going to be taxable for resident and ordinary resident. So for the resident, ordinary resident, the taxability is 17 lakh, full current year income. Earlier year tax income, we have already did the treatment. We have excluded that. Business control from India. So the business is controlled from India. That means that income is also going to be taxable in the hands of resident and not ordinary resident. Because for resident and not ordinary, received in India, earned in India, control from India is taxable. So because the word is control from India, that 17 lakh is going to be taxable for RNOR also. Now the information. For non-resident, only two income is taxable, arise in India or received in India. Out of current year income from 20 lakh, 4 lakh received in India. So 4 lakh received in India. We will not tax this 4 lakh again over here and over here because we have already taxed the full income over here. So for non-resident, this is going to be taxable only, 4 lakh. Received is taxable. Remittance is irrelevant. I always ask you, kindly delete this line wherever the remittance and brought word has been written. Suppose in this question, if I would ask that business controlled from outside India, then what will happen? So even if business controlled outside India, this is going to be taxable for ROR. But for RNOR, only free income is taxable. Arise, received, and business controlled from India. But business is not controlled. Then only two income is taxable, arise and received. So arise outside India, but received in India 4 lakh. So 4 lakh is taxable for RNOR and 4 lakh will be taxable for non-resident. Clear? So that would be the case in our question. So the correct answer would be this. And if business is controlled outside India, then the correct answer would be this. I hope it's clear. So we have completed the provision of incidence of tax. There are some provisions left, like what is the meaning of deemed to arise, deemed to receive, what is the tax illustration sum, which relates to the incidence of tax provision, and then the test your knowledge questions and the other MCQ, what we will discuss in the next session. So our next class would be day after tomorrow. So we will discuss all these provision over there. I have already uploaded the notes. Okay, somebody, if any query, kindly ask. Sir, in fifth point, can we still travel or visit in the case of income brought and remittance, as the brought would be taxed in respective nation? We could understand in any way, but the income is, if it is not received in India or earned, then remittance is irrelevant. Whatever income would be remitted into India, that is not going to be taxed. As suppose Mr. A working in Dubai, and he received income in Dubai 50 lakh rupees in his bank account, and then remit out of that 50 lakh rupees 10 lakh rupees in his Indian bank account. So after you once received the income, after that whatever you will do, that will be called a remittance. So it is not going to be taxable on the basis of remittance. Okay, so notes on the portal, kindly log into the portal and you will get the notes. I have uploaded the notes also. MCQ of day 1, I will upload that also. And then we will discuss the other MCQs, the other topic, what we have left in the next class. Okay. So Bhargav sir, can